Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Marcia Erickson, and I'm your host for this afternoon for our discussion with Rob Lillicrap of Quad City Custom Signs. Welcome, Rob.
Hello, hello. How are you?
Good. So today we're going to talk about you, your business, your journey, and we want to see just a little peek into what it's like to be the owner of a small business.
Sounds great.
All right. So set the stage for us. Tell
Sure.
us, how'd you get here?
Yeah, so I guess it's been a while back when I went to business school. I'd always wanted to own a small business or start and run my own business. And so COVID came around, like many people, and the family situation was in a spot where it was the right time to start looking. And so one thing led to another that we looked at buying a couple businesses locally, and those didn't really pan out. So ended up kind of starting my own business from scratch, which wasn't something I had originally thought about, but chose to go that direction and opened on December 1st of 2020, which I thought was going to be the end of COVID, which we all know wasn't the end of COVID. But it was good. It was a good, start to the business, and me and a designer, and we started December 1st, 2020. We opened doors, and it's been kind of a sprinting event since then.
So you are in a unique model in that you started it from scratch, but I think our audience would be interested in learning about the incubator that you use to get started.
Yeah, so the incubator that I started was a one-time fee. Their name is SignWorld, so they do this for sign companies across the U.S. So we have a one-time fee on the front end, but they help you initially with getting the proper type of location, proper equipment. They'll help you with recruiting and hiring some initial employees, all up into including templates for employee manuals, giving you some training on the front end. And now I'm part of a larger group that is all the SignWorld community, and we also get ongoing learning opportunities, vendor introductions. If we have specific questions, we can reach out to them, and then all the other, I'll say the network that's there now, everybody else just like me, from experienced guys 30 plus years to somebody that's been brand new, just joined, a couple weeks ago. We have the ability to reach out to each other and, ask those questions of, have you ever been through this experience and what did you do? What did you learn? So hopefully we can kind of minimize the new scars that we each have to learn in the process.
Yeah. And there's other industries that have incubators like that. So if someone's thinking of starting a business, would you recommend looking into something like that?
I did, especially, yeah. I mean, up into that, I was interested in signs, but I wasn't a sign person, quote unquote, in my background. So it was definitely a learning curve that I had to get on, and that really shortened that learning curve to me, for me to learn the products and services that we needed to offer to be competitive, but also have a network of people that I could go out and ask questions when I needed to, just to, answer my phone call on the other line and give me some direction on the nuances of small business and what needs to happen, how's it going to happen, what strategy things we need to start in year one that are going to impact us in year three, right? So that was a really good, shorten that learning curve. So I would definitely recommend it, especially if you're going out to an adjacent industry or something that you're not really comfortable with.
Hmm. And now you get to be the more seniored input in those groups. You have a lot to
Yeah, no,
share.
yeah, absolutely. No, so we do get calls, quite frequently. We'll get calls to, hey, I heard you guys did this, or hey, we heard you did a strategy that did this. What did you learn? Would you do it again? Here's my situation. Does it fit well? So it's really fun to see a lot of the young, I'll say the less mature owners. Some of them are much older than me, but they're less mature owners kind of having that going through that same path, right? As small business ownership and trying to learn their craft a little bit, and depending on the background they came from, they're really strong in one sense of the business and maybe less strong in some of the others. And as a small business owner, you kind of start honing those points on all of them to some degree, right? So it's nice to be able to kind of help somebody else up that track as somebody else did to me, several years
Yeah.
ago. So.
Yeah. So generally speaking, set the stage for us. What's the company look like? What's your role in the company? What has your role been in the company? How many people have you grown to?
Yep. So right now it's me plus 10 people as of yeah, I guess May 2026 roughly.
Yeah.
Um, Started as me and one other person, me and a designer day one, right? So we've grown the last, I'll say the last 2 years have seen a lot of growth in the business, and not only in terms of revenue, but in terms of employees. So we've
Mhm.
added quite a few over the last 2 years. I'll say we've added 6 or 7 over the last 2 years. So a pretty big bit of growth, and we've been able to kind of upscale customers as we've been able to do that. So revenue is in line with that, and then to some degree, right now, we try to hire early and grow into those people's roles, right? And we're seeing a lot of people mature in roles, so we're able to do more things a little bit more efficiently. Potentially even doing things that we would outsource before. We're able to do that now as our own part of our own group, and kind of take some of those benefits and learnings to apply to the business. So it's been nice. We've seen a lot of the people that have been with us a long time mature into new roles. So it's a really good feeling from a owner perspective and from a manager perspective to see those people grow and take on more work and mature, right?
Yeah. So you're changing your role. So tell us
I
about that.
am.
You've grown the business to a certain place where you get to bring in a GM.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you mentioned, we just recently hired a general manager to take over. My title is president, but as a small business, you're doing a lot of things, right? You're wearing almost all the hats at some point or another. And as we've added people, I've been able to delegate a lot more of my tasks specifically to other people. And then here recently hired a general manager, and I'm transitioning to kind of be more of a strategic leader as opposed to the day-to-day operator. So it's really about, driving efficient processes, and putting expectations on other people that they can do those jobs effectively for our customers and for the business. But the general manager take over the day-to-day operations, and I'm going to be a lot more of the strategic driver and probably a little bit more of the, I'll say, framework of the business and less operations day-to-day related.
Yeah. And just by that simple move, you just increased the value in that asset, right?
Yeah, as we work through that, yeah, we learned of I'll say the enterprise value or the potential sale value, that multiple of a small business goes up if you're not directly in it. So it's definitely a little bit of risky on the front end, but the long-term benefit is there if we can continue that growth path that the business is on and continue to keep customers happy, right?
Yeah. You alluded to your team, so let's go back to that because
Sure.
having worked with you for quite a while, that's your superpower. So tell me about your leadership style. Tell the listeners about how you've grown this team. Your team would run through a brick wall for you. So part of that's art, part of it's science. Tell us about that a
Yeah.
little bit.
No, I mean, kind of think of them as human beings and people they're working a job. And I've said this to my team many times is I want you guys to come in. I want you guys to give me your best you can every day. But I want you to go home at the end of the day in a safe environment. And I want you to, after that work's done, I want you to go and be with your family, right? If your child is having something going on, you need to be there with them. And I'm not harsh about that. It can be frustrating from a manager's perspective to make sure we're meeting the customer expectations. But I try to lead with some grace. I try to lead with understanding of what challenges they have, and if it's a work-related challenge, we can always find a path. Um, to make it right, right? To make things work well, to make it safer, to make it a higher quality output. And in some cases, it's hey, I've not done this or I haven't done this in a while. Can you show me, or could we try something different? I'd like to do this. And it's absolutely the answer is always yes. If we can do it and keep our customer happy, we should try it, right? Even if that means we've got to scrap something just because we tried it. I'd much rather try it, learn that we don't do it that way, and do it again if we absolutely have to try to build that skill and build that knowledge. And to be honest with you, the benefit of all that is building confidence in the team, right? Not just whatever that product is, but building their confidence so they can try something new. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, they know they can still try and not get fired or not have some detriment back to them. But yeah, so then and then letting them kind of the other is the operational side is really just giving guidelines and not micromanaging people.
Mhm.
Give them a guideline, set a clear expectation, and then give them the tools and the resources necessary to be successful, and then let them run, right?
Yeah.
That's probably one of the more frustrating things is hiring somebody that can't be independent. They've got to tell them exactly what to do every piece, and that's not what I want to do. Um,
Mhm.
so that's been good to have and good to see in my team as they've realized their decision-making space, and to them to grow into that decision-making space saying that's not how we're going to do it, we're going to do it like this because it's easier, right? And they'll come back to me because up until recently I was one of the cogs in the process, right? For a while I was doing some sales and that kind of stuff, and they say, hey Rob, we're not doing it that way, and they felt comfortable coming to me as, I'll say, the boss or the owner, right? and
Yeah.
be able to tell me, no, that's not the process. We need to do it like this, and this is why. It's like, yeah, you're right. That's right. Let's do that. So the other thing I openly tell my team is, the if you've got a problem with me or something I'm not doing right, I'm always open to that criticism. Come in my office, close the door, let's have a chat, right? I realize I'm not perfect. I want to be just like everybody else, where I can take criticism because I'm going to give some criticism back when I don't think things are going right, and I know that I'm not perfect. And they all know that, and they come to me and they talk to me, and hey, I don't think I understand why you did this. Can you help me understand that?
Mm.
And then, 95% of the time it's not proprietary, it's not something that's secret. And it's just having a discussion on here's my perspective. And sometimes I'm wrong, right? Oh, you didn't understand like this XYZ. So but having that open door policy with them and them feeling comfortable about coming in without being scared of, oh, the boss is going to get back on me has really gone a long way. Especially with some of the more tenured people. They'll even tell some of the newer people, no, just go talk to him. Just go tell him this isn't right and that we need to do X, Y, Z and see what he says. And so
Love
it's
it.
it's it's nice to see that that culture has taken on. And for the
Mhm.
most part, I'm not teaching that, proactively now. Everybody else has taken that on as well.
Yeah.
And as we've been able to grow, we've got some smaller teams that are kind of self-managing themselves, and they have that same culture within their team. They're going back to their team leader saying, "Hey, that doesn't make sense," instead of just waiting for the team leader to say, "This is exactly what we're doing," right? So that's been
Mhm.
good to see a little bit. I'll say that's a little bit of a proud moment, for lack of a better term. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Very cool. So as you look back on this journey you've been on, what's a memorable roadblock or hurdle that you've overcome and how'd you do it and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of credit here as well. So I guess it was roughly 2 years ago. One of the challenges that we got was, hey, what does your business need to look like in 10 years, right? What is the peak of your business going to look like, or what do you think it's going to look like in 10 years, the growth and whatever else? Start describing what that looks like. And so we did that as a group. And then the next thing was how, tell me about how you're gonna get there from where you're at and how you're gonna get there. And it's like it was pretty obvious and it hit me like a bolt of lightning kind of if we keep doing what we're doing, we're never gonna get to that point, right? There's something has to change, and that required some self-reflection on my own conservativeness to some degree. And so you needed to kind of reinvest in the business, reinvest in the people of the business, and try to drive for a different path. And since we've done that, we've seen a lot of growth. We've seen a lot of maturity in the business. That's allowed given us some options to try new things, to meet some new people, have some new partnerships, that kind of stuff that we can try out. Because it's given us a little bit of leeway in terms of the business where we're not tight, it's not too conservatively run. And so the kind of we're on a path to kind of make that a reality now, right? So that was the again, I got to invest into the growth. And
Mhm.
I'll say for the most part, that growth has come along. And some of it is you got to try it new. And if it doesn't work, you got to be willing to say, this is not right. We got to do something different.
Yep.
And that was, 2.5 years ago was that kind of reflection of
Yep.
it's probably a little too conservative. Rob's going down too much of a conservative path. We got to think about growing outside the box. So and that's a
Yeah.
benefit of having a coach and a third party that's talking to you a little bit too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. I tell that story all the time. I will never forget that phone call. It's time. It's time to grow. And you
Mhm.
did. Tell us a little bit about your target market, your clients, who comes to you, what makes you different, what kind of businesses do you serve, who's a good fit for
Yep.
you?
Yep. So we're in the Quad Cities, so we primarily work with businesses within roughly 60 miles of the Quad Cities. We go a little bit outside that, but I'll say the majority of those customers look like business owners, managers, potentially even maintenance techs if they're responsible for a lot of the exterior signage, that kind of stuff for larger corporations. And I'll say we set ourselves apart from others because we're willing to do more complex stuff and figure it out, not just
Mm.
sell them a sign, right? A lot of people
Yeah.
come and say, "Hey, this is exactly what we want," and we can help them with that. But our goal is to make sure it's effective. And sometimes that's a difficult discussion around, "Hey, I realize this is kind of what you want. Would you consider this? And here's why we think you might be able to consider it," and trying to talk them through the process. We don't want to just, sell commodity stuff, right? We want to make sure that those people are investing in something that's usually their brand, right? And it's going on their building or it's going in their office and it needs to be their branded items. It needs to look good. It needs to be a reflection of themselves and their culture. Um, so we're looking, our ideal customer is looking for a sign and they're looking for someone to take care of that process for them, right?
Mhm.
And our job, we look at it as we want to give you what you need, not necessarily what you want, right? And some of those don't always align. In some cases they do, but sometimes they don't. But we were willing to have that discussion to make sure that you're getting something effective and your investment's going to pay off for you, and for your customers, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. So you're a marketer, you're a brander, right? You're more than just a sign company. Talk about
yeah,
your marketing. So everyone,
yeah.
all of our listeners want to know what marketing works, what should they try, what doesn't work, what's working for you. So tell us about your marketing plan.
The best marketing that I think anybody has, especially a small business, are your customers, right? So
Mhm.
um, I'll say relationships, trying to build relationships with our customers, but also building relationships in the community. Um, that's the key. It's not always hey, I built a relationship. Now they're going to give me a quote tomorrow or a request for a quote
Mhm.
tomorrow. It's I made you made a introduction and that person knows somebody needs a sign and just references, maybe they're having wine, maybe it's a friend. Hey, have you guys talked to Rob over at Quad City Custom Signs?
Mhm.
He might be able to help you with this, right? And we've
Yeah.
gotten a lot of just, hey, I'm sending somebody your way, see if you can help them out, right? And that has turned into bigger projects, right? So
Mhm.
relationships are a major piece. From I'll say, traditional marketing side, we do very good on Google Ads and Google, that type of stuff. Obviously, we run a decent website that we continue to try to update. Um, but I'll say the Google Ads and some of the organic growth there has been valuable for us. Here recently, we've been transitioning into more AI focused activities around our website and even some of the social media. And so
Yeah.
we're kind of transitioning that, and we continue to transition as AI kind of takes a different phase, right? So I
Mhm.
think all the marketing folks in the world and even the small business folks I'll say, are nervous, but yet see the opportunity that could lie in that new digital space. So we're trying to
Yeah.
accommodate for that as well,
And really the key is to be everywhere, right?
as much as you
Be seen
can.
as the
Yeah,
expert and be everywhere.
yeah. Because as a small business owner, and I know you do, and some of the clients, it's what's that budget look like, and how do you make the most of each one,
Yeah.
and it's hard, but sometimes you just gotta say, hey, that thing's not working. I've got to
Hmm.
shut that down as much as it might make sense. It's not getting what I need. I need to go invest in another thing that may not
Yep.
work either, but we're going to keep trying until we figure out what it is. And you figure out what it is, you kind of keep building into that, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Tell us about where are you going from here? So what do the next 3 to 5 years look like?
That's really cool. So I'll say from now until the cows come home to some degree is really going to be about process development as we keep growing, right?
Mhm.
So I mentioned kind of over the last 2 years we've grown people and the business has changed quite a bit. It almost feels like we outgrow processes about as quickly as we can install processes. So we're really focused on the process that we're putting in are a little bit easier to scale, and not just working for today, but working for the next phase of scale, right? So that's a
Yep.
big discussion in my office right now. um, so the next 3 or 5 years, it really looks like growth. It looks like me being less in the business and more driving strategic changes, right? Adding assets to the business, improving delivery, improving customer service, improving our offerings as well. So some capital investments going to be included in there. But me personally, as being, the business is not going to be reliant on the owner, right? So that's the big key to drive that process. And obviously, the general manager I hired, he's going to have a big role there as well, but
Mhm.
developing and maturing the staff to kind of own their jobs, right, and not have to rely on the owner. And to some degree, we've been doing that, but
Mhm.
continuing that path as best we can.
Yeah, I would say you've created a very independent team. They're close, they're collaborative, but they're very independent,
Yep.
which has served you well, right? It's going to
Yeah.
serve you well in this next transition and the next evolution of the business.
Yeah, no, it's super exciting to see kind of like I said, those
Hmm.
people mature in roles and the business is
Yeah,
maturing in the same path. So it's super exciting to kind of see what that's going to turn into over the next couple of years.
yeah. Let's move into some rapid fire questions. You ready?
Let's go.
Okay. What's the key to success for you?
Uh, uh, Being calm and making decisions somewhat quickly.
Hmm, good.
Not a
And I
strong
can,
suit, not a strong suit, but it's definitely a key success. Make the
I'm just
decision, make
giggling
this.
because I know exactly how long it takes for you to ponder something and when I'm going to get the text about the next move.
Yeah, no, but make decisions quickly. Realize that all the decisions aren't gonna be perfect, and but the sooner you make the decision, the sooner you're gonna figure out if it's the right one, and you can quickly pivot again if you need to. Right? That's
Yep.
Easier said than done in some cases, but that's a key to being successful in the small business world that's changing quite a bit.
Yeah. So similar question, maybe
Mhm.
a little bit different. What is one piece of advice you have for other business owners?
For other business owners, maintain your focus on the long term.
Mm,
Invest in your business for the long term. It's uncomfortable, but continue that consistent strategic investment is going to benefit yourself in the long run. If you're always managing to the next day, you're never going to get that open view of what the long term needs to look like. So that'd be mine. Then
yeah.
obviously, as you're able, delegate as much as possible, right? So you can continue to think about that longer term strategic and take those
Yep.
opportunities as they come along.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, what's a book that you're reading or a podcast that you're listening to?
Oh, a podcast I listen to regularly. It's called The Daily.
Okay.
It's a little bit economic and a little bit political and a little bit more newsy. A book that I just recently read, just recently read was Revenge of the Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. I like that a lot. He wrote The
Oh,
Tipping Point 30 years ago, I believe.
yeah.
He's come back and redone some new ones. And while it's not directly related to business, it's definitely a understand the information you're given to make good decisions. And he walks through several things that seem obvious on the surface. But as you understand the data and the context of the data, it comes out to be a much different impact on whatever topic he's talking about, right? So both of those are pretty good for me. And the podcast is probably more of a daily impact, what's going on around me, how do
Yeah.
I influence that? And then the other one's a little bit more kind of philosophically thinking about how are you absorbing information? What are you doing in your professional or even your private life that may not be as it looks like. So,
Yeah. I did not know that. So that's awesome information. That's new for me.
yep.
I didn't know he wrote another one. So here's a fun question. If you had a little bit of magic dust and you could sprinkle it on one aspect of your business,
Oh
what
boy,
would it be?
what would I sprinkle it on? It would be the process from customer to kind of our production phase.
Mhm.
Getting that right can be a great thing or a bad thing.
Yeah.
And we continue to work on making that easier and easier to work with us. And if I had fairy dust that I could just magically fix it, that's what we would do. I think what we do and how we do it is really, really good. We've got to get the customer and us on the same page as quickly as possible, and it works really well. If we can't get on the same page and we have a little bit of back and forth on the front end, it just kind of makes that roughness or that friction kind of maintains the business friction kind of maintains all the way through the project. And there's always I don't say there's a hiccup in the project, but there's always a little bit more that we could have done, I felt like, to get the customer on the right page up front. And the rest of the project goes really, really smooth. The customer's happy, and it's a win-win for everybody at that point. So that's where I'd be sprinkling my fairy dust.
Yeah, I like it. You raised a really good point earlier that I want to reemphasize is it feels like we're always working on systems in your business.
Hmm.
And you raise a really good point. As soon as we get one in place, we're evolving, right? And
Yep.
through scaling, that's part of scaling, right? Is then
Yep.
we're redefining and redoing. So I think that's important for any organization to think about is it's not a one and done. We got to get
Correct.
them done, but then you've always got to be going back and looking at them and revising them. So I think that's super
Yep.
important. Okay, before we get into the final question of the day, how can people find you? How can they find you? How can they find QC Custom Signs?
Yeah, so you can find the business a couple different ways. Facebook, Quad City Custom Signs, website, quadcitycustomsigns.com if you want to see some pictures. We've got a new chat bot on there that's recently been put in to answer some really good questions for you guys. So you don't necessarily need to talk to people if you don't really want to. You can go on there at 3 o'clock in the morning and get some questions answered.
Yeah,
Other ways to find us. You can give us an email. Sales at quadcitycustomsigns.com is a good way to find the office. You can find me, R Lillicrap at quadcitycustomsigns.com. And I am willing to help you get there as you need to. You can call the
awesome.
office 888-498-4352. Um, Either way, you can get there, get a hold of us, let us know what we can do for you. If you got a project, obviously we'll send a survey and meet you on site to see what we can do for you. So let us know how we can help.
Awesome. Excellent. That was going to be my question is what's that? intake process look like? So excellent. All right, final question of the day. What's inspiring you today?
It's inspiring me today. To see, so I've been blessed to have a really good staff, and I've mentioned a couple times to see them mature into roles that they didn't necessarily come on board for initially, right?
Mhm.
And see them grow and be successful in roles. The second part of that is they've also become teachers to other people in the business that are just coming on board. So
Mhm.
not only is it nice because then, management team's not doing it to some degree, but it's also they feel comfortable enough and they understand the process and not just the button clicks, but they understand what the input needs to be. They understand the value that it adds to have that new role in on board. And for them to kind of take ownership and make sure that person is successful along with their new roles has been really cool to see. And not, I'm not the driver of it, but you see it as a third person. That's really been inspiring to me within the business for sure.
Yeah, fantastic. This was a great conversation. I enjoyed having you. Um, for all of you watching, save the show. Rob has so much wisdom to share, and he's shared a lot of tidbits today. So save this, go back and watch it, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can hear every episode when it drops. We're feverishly recording a lot of business owners in our area. So do that. Thanks to everyone who joined us today. And thank you, Rob, for taking the time to share more about your business.
Loved it. Had a great time. Thank you.
Good. Take care.